Hi everyone. Today I'm going to talk about a review of national and regional strategies on plant protection in Asia, Africa, and Latin America from gender and social perspectives. The team member includes Nancy, Amang, Natalia, Wilma, and Chan. So why is policy review needed? Because our scaling partners' activities are restricted within the government policy and its priorities. CGIAR is generating evidence for policy change. However, we don't know much about what policies say. So we ask question of how far the regional and national plant protection strategies consider gender and social inclusion, and if considered, in which areas of activities. So we take a qualitative policy content analysis. First was developing an analytical framework, then searching relevant strategies available online in public. Then descriptive thematic analysis was conducted using Atlas TI. So analytical framework was developed based on literature review, and 8 domains, topics are identified as closely related to gender and social inclusions, which includes responding to diverse needs of farmers, learning from indigenous knowledge, pluralistic extension, participatory surveillance, inclusive experts, gender-responsive monitoring and evaluation, climate change and uneven impact, and digitalization and reinforcing gaps. We then selected 1 international, 3 regional, and 3 national strategies. International plant protection conversation was a global one, then Africa Union, Asia Pacific, and North America. We couldn't find Central and South America, but North America includes Mexico. 3 countries were selected because of the availability and also relevance to CG's activities. And each country, we selected 2 or 3 strategies to cover those all 8 domains. In the content analysis, relevant sentences were selected based on keywords listed here. In some domains, we repeat keywords in domain 1, for example, citizen science plus women, or climate change plus women or gender, men, female, male. In that way, we identified sentences relevant to gender and social inclusion. So this is the overview of the quantitative result. The evaluation was made. Score 0 is no keyword mentioned in any sentence. Score 1 is keyword mentioned, and then score 2 was specific actions are explained. Of course, this does not show the all results qualitatively, but you can clearly see that some of strategies don't have much information on gender and social inclusions. And for participatory surveillance, only one here, African Union mentioned. The rest of them talk about surveillance, but not in relation to gender and social inclusion at all. So now we go for the qualitative analysis. First is responding to diverse needs of farmers. We ask question of the strategies aware of inequality. Do the strategies have specific targets? So 4 strategies identified gender as important part of their strategy. For example, African Union says gender constellations have been recognized as vital. Women in Africa contribute significantly. And then strategies are designed to improve women's awareness, knowledge, and skills, very clearly mentioning. Also, they talk about resource-constrained small farmers who may not afford safer pest options. Congratulations, gold medal awarded. Similarly, Kenyan emergency recast also clearly mentioned here, vulnerable and marginalized households and female-headed households will be prioritized in the targeting process. Congratulations. So the others are very different. This is mentioning about keywords. The priority sector, gender, youth, and vulnerable groups. Keyword is mentioned, but not really concrete ideas and reason behind. IPPC is a global one, so they consider the inequality at national levels. So they consider about less developed countries and also developing countries, but not about gender or other social dimensions as a global strategy. So the second one, we ask question of, do the strategies consider indigenous knowledge as part of plant health scientific knowledge? 4 strategies confirm about it. So first is a Kenyan emergency locust. They say taking into consideration the importance of indigenous knowledge and technologies, especially in pastoralist systems, where language and technical knowledge and culture are very different. Gold medal awarded. African Union also says that taking into account of indigenous knowledge. For the Mexico, they talk about indigenous peoples, but more about indigenous plants, here native corns, and its seed systems. Is their concern not about their knowledge? Similarly, Vietnam also mentioned about indigenous materials and preservation for biodiversity, but not people's indigenous knowledge. Pluralistic extension was the area many strategies talk about it. Do the strategy diversify communication means to reach to women and others who have specific disadvantages? Look at it. So African Union says that more appropriate and smarter communication technologies in order to value women's role, and civil society and NGOs are mentioned as it. So the second award for African Union. Kenyan Lucas also says that with disability, indigenous persons and other members of vulnerable groups in a language and communication that they understand and which is accessible. Also, they ask question of what is the appropriate type of communication for each of those targeted groups. Excellent. The third award for Kenyan Locust. Here, Vietnam, they also mention about accessible to many target groups in society, and they specifically mention Women's Union and Youth Union as an agency to reach those groups, which is great. Also, I found this is very interesting, saying that changing the thinking of agriculture extension activities, they call service extension, market extension, need-based extension, participatory, multi-value, and commodity chains. So there are many observations we see that extension is really changing and improving across regions. However, for North American strategies, you look at it very different. Consider the use of innovative communication mechanisms and platform to disseminate innovation. This is very general, not specific and not targeting. This one is more specific, but not mentioned about the targeted audience, but they said they want to diversify by different communication means. So the next one is surveillance. Do the strategy recognize women farmers as key actors for surveillance? Only African Union recognize it. Look at this. Recognizing the difference women can make in the field of plant protection is important, as women are frequently involved in traditional farming practice and are important observers of plant pest problems. They can play a vital role in pest scoring and surveillance reporting. The third award for African Union, very good. So the next is expert involvement. Do the strategy include social and gender expert in technology designs? Look at this Mexico. They say they have a guarantee the principle of gender parity. And they also say that representative of rural and person from the social sector should be included in the plant health This is Mexico's higher level political policy on gender, which is very good. So Kenya also say that equity and equality when recruiting, promoting, and remunerating staff. They particularly mention that the current staff rate to men to women is women very low. I think that is the first step to recognize the gender imbalance in extension systems and technology development. This is very good to mention it. Vietnam also mentioned, but more very general, the participation of the entire society and encourage all economic sector to participate, not specific to gender. So monitoring and evaluation is like that. Do the strategy have specific gender targets in monitoring and evaluation? We found two strategies mentioning about it. So African Union says principle in inclusivity that gender-sensitive monitoring and evaluation system that meets different needs of men, women, youth, and other marginalized groups, gender-related goals and priorities, and then proper gender interventions. Excellent. The fourth award for African Union. So Kenya also mentioned about it. This is very interesting that in the monitoring and evaluation, they want to see social impact. So socio-economic status of community before and after field control activities should be measured by involving social specialists. Fourth award for Kenya are passed as well. The seventh topic is climate change impacts. Do the strategy consider climate impacts specific populations and its social consequences? Let's look at it. This has very few limited mention, especially climate change affect, especially for women. Climate change affect, especially for the nations that are poorest and most affected by climate change, and it can heighten inter-community conflict. Also, especially smallholder farmers and poor farmers in difficult areas affected by climate change, that they need particular support. Not very much gender specific. This is a gap we identified. So last is the digitalization. Do the strategy consider in equal access to digital resources? Very limited mentioning. They talk about digital transformation, digital technology as opportunities, but not mention about the access issues. Only introduce one strategy from IPPC, says that e-fit solution project we have, however, that a simple generic system needed for developing countries where infrastructure is not yet developed. So as a concluding remarks, as you see, there are some strategies which technical focus don't mention about access and inequality issues. There must be something gender strategy in the national level, but that is not linked to plant health strategy. This is sectoral and disciplinary approach. In this case, plant health technologies will rather increase inequality because naturally it will reach to those who are better off, and mostly men. In contrast, like African Union and Kenyan strategy, they take cross-sectoral or interdisciplinary approach, and gender strategies everywhere integrated. So this specified target with justification explaining how to address. In this case, plant health technologies will be much more efficient and help reduce inequality and address food insecurity, because food insecurity is a problem for those who are marginalized, and including the women. This result do not represent nation or region's performance on plant protection at all, because we are not reviewing all relevant documents. And also implementation is a different matter. This is the last slide. Thank you for listening.